Hello everyone, how are you doing today? So in today's lesson, you will be improving your reading and writing skills by reading your peers' paragraphs that are written about Charles Darwin and his scientific discoveries, and you will also write your own paragraph based on the portion of the book Charles Darwin's Voyage of the Beagle. You'll write a paragraph based off of what I'm going to read to you. You're going to write about what he learned, and you're going to write about his scientific discoveries, and you will be assessed on using the correct English to read and write. So can anybody here tell me who Charles Darwin was? Okay, anything about him? Okay, so he was a naturalist, and he traveled in the 1800s on a boat that's called the Beagle, and there he discovered how animals evolved and other scientific discoveries, and learned many things during his travels in South America and other places. So I will begin with reading on page 421, the end of 421. Okay. The landing of the Ark mountain of the middle height appears remarkable because the climate of the highest on which we might naturally suppose the Ark rested. Did we not know to the contrary might have been unsupportable during the time that Noah waited for the recess of the waters. Reasoning from existing circumstances, the temperature of the surface of the ocean would have been nearly that of the contiguous air, but after the waters had receded high, mountain tops would have gradually acquired their present frozen state. Here the reflection arises. When did icebergs begin to appear? Was not the climate equable and temperate all over the world for some time after the deluge in consequence to the slow drying and warming of tropical regions, and gradual formation of ice near the poles? Such a condition of climate would have favored the distribution of animals. Those who oppose the idea that animals migrated to various quarters of the globe surely do not reflect that the swallow, the wild swan, the wild goose, the wild horse, the Norway rat, and numerous other creatures now migrate periodically in search of food or a better climate. Similar instincts may have taught animals to wander then, till they reach the places suited to them, and there the same instinct would retain them. Want of proper food or climate, or the attacks of enemies, may have destroyed stragglers who did not migrate. Therefore, we find no kangaroos in Europe. It is no proof that kangaroos did not once exist there. Elks are now found in North America. We know they were formerly in Europe. Is that race here now? During the first few hundred years after the flood, extraordinary changes may have taken place in the geography of the world, in consequence of the drying and altering of various portions, also from the effects of volcanic eruptions and earthquakes, occasionally perhaps by electric action, on newly exposed land, as well as by other causes. Many places now islands may have been united to a continent for a considerable period after the deluge. Much land may have sunk down. Much may have risen up in various parts of the world. Such changes are said to be going on even now, though on a small scale, Lyell, Darwin, and what they have not been during the first few centuries after the flood. Volcanic eruptions such as those of the Galapagos, Andros, Etna, Aborigine, Indian Islands, and etc. were then perhaps in such activity as they have never shown since. What the division in the earth was in the day of pledge does not distinctly appear, but it could only have been a separation from the true faith, a partition of territory among men, or some mighty convulsions, some rending of contraction, as it were, of the earth, which was so general as to have occasioned a marked and unqualified record, as of an event well known to all. Many philosophers think that the world has a central region of surpassing heat, and that the greater part of the interior of the globe is in a state of incandescence, if not of fusion. That small portion of which they call the crust of the earth is supposed to be the only cooled part, and they differ merely as to the degree of fluidity in the central region. I take it for granted that they have duly estimated the moon's tendency to cause tides in a fluid mass within her influence. If there were no crust, of course she would cause such an effect, but a well-hardened case, we must suppose, can resist any such movement in the central fluid mass. Upon the principle of the arc, it would be easier to imagine resistance to pressure from without than from within. But the case of crust of our globe must be so solid that it neither yields nor vibrates to an internal expansive force. This theory, however, is unsupported by any satisfactory evidence. Men of character and attainments have advocated it, although resting on conjecture, but when we look back along the roll of history and discover so few philosophers who have not greatly erred, although famed in their day, it is natural to pause and not acquiesce hastily in mere human assertion, unsubstantiated by proof, boring the ground, or examining the temperature of the bottom of a deep mine, affords no estimate for that of the central regions. Sir John Herschel says that the deepest mine existing does not penetrate half a mile below the surface. A scratch of or pinhole duly representing it on the surface of such globe, 16 inches in diameter, would be imperceptible without a magnifier. Okay. So your paragraph will have to contain what he learned with that statement, with what I read to you, the scientific discoveries, and then when you're finished, you will read it in front of the class out loud, and then you will also be assigned a peer to review, and somebody will be assigned to read your paragraph, and you will write it on Google Docs, and you will be assessed based off of the correct English usage of reading out loud and also writing with grammar and spelling. Okay. Any questions before we proceed? Okay. All right, good job, everybody, and good luck. I look forward to seeing your work.